morning and welcome to ASI's Tuesday Morning Show, where ASI's most outspoken editors talk promo products. I'm Melinda Legos, editor-in-chief of ASI's magazines, and I have two of our most illustrious ASI staffers here today. They'll be in a few minutes, but for now,
you're stuck with
I'd
us.
like to introduce Dave Magnoni, otherwise known as D-Bags. He's the senior editor of Counselor magazine. He's going to be talking state of the industry with us this morning. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Melinda. How are you?
I'm good.
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. And we have another illustrious guest here, Nate Kuzma.
That is correct.
He is our research director, and I'm glad we have video here because
this is great.
Nate brought about 500 pieces of paper with little chicken scratchings on it.
There are.
So he's obviously crunched some numbers for us.
There's also handwriting on them too.
Yes, it's very impressive. But Nate handles the Mammoth Research Study, the Counselor State of the Industry research project every year. Nate, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that involves?
Oh, well, sure, absolutely. So the state of the industry, this has been going on for decades now, and I can actually say that it's been going on for a while now.
Before you got here.
I know, and that is, ASI did exist before that, even though I sometimes don't like to think so. So what we did this year was we actually have taken the ASI State of the Industry study, and we actually do it in a couple of ways. We have people fill out the questionnaires at the various ASI shows that take place during the first quarter of the year. This year it was in Long Beach, Dallas, and Orlando. And we also give all of our members an opportunity to take the survey online. And every year we get an incredibly good response rate. We get upwards of 1,000 people responding to the survey in one form or another.
And we ask them all about their sales and all kinds of predictive information.
It's not only looking backwards, but it's also looking forwards. We look at what were their top markets and what were their top products for 2014. But then we also look at what are their expectations for 2015, and we do this every year. And that helps us really get a gauge on not only where the market's been, which is interesting because it's always nice to see for our distributors about where they stack up relative to their constituents, but also where are we moving to, and also what are the expectations for the new year?
Sure. And of course, all this data is published in a great report. We have a special Counselor State of the Industry issue which comes out in mid-July, but we're going to give you a sneak peek at some of the data today. Now, Dave, you've been involved with the State of the Industry now for what, 6-7 years?
Yes.
So we're going to put you on the spot a little.
Great.
We know some of the hot markets. I mean, education's always up there. Healthcare is always up there. But sometimes they shift just a little in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So without looking over at
I couldn't read it anyway if I tried.
At Nate's chicken scratchings.
That's why it's so small.
I want you to guess in order what you think the 5 biggest markets were for distributor sales in 2014, starting with number 1, the biggest.
I want to say healthcare again was number 1. Would I be right or wrong?
Well,
or you want me to give you the entire
give your
top
list
5?
And we'll see how well you did.
All right, we'll go healthcare 1, education 2. We'll go finance 3, technology 4, and pets 5. How about that?
Pets 5.
Yeah, I'm going to say pets.
I think nonprofits in there somewhere. But Nate, how did Dave do?
He actually batted 1,000% in that all of his answers were incorrect.
Yay!
Oh, great.
Can we get a bing, 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 bing for that?
Well, just because they were incorrect in order doesn't mean they were incorrect in
I'm going to venture to say
five.
Pets was not in the top 5.
Pets
Is
was
that
not
correct?
in the top
Or
5.
was pets?
Pets did not make the list.
At all? Well, how many markets are there?
I think your research is flawed, Nate.
Obviously.
We know pets is a fast-growing market.
Yes.
However, apparently it did not crack the top 5.
But pets is not an industry, actually.
Okay.
It's a
What's a
category,
market?
but it's not an industry.
The pet market is massive. Don't you read Counselor?
All right, moving on. Nate,
All right, give us the list then.
Tell us the top
list
5.
in order, and this is where it's different from last year. For the past 3 years, healthcare was number 1.
Right.
This year it's not. This year you actually have education, which took over the top spot from healthcare.
That's an easy switch.
So
they're just reversed.
Right.
Oh, so
Okay.
Dave's
Big
justifying.
frickin' deal. Okay.
Dave's justifying his answers. All right, let's
they
move on.
were, however, still
So,
wrong.
okay.
So healthcare is now number 1, followed. Healthcare is number 2, following education.
Right.
Number 3, and it was flip-flopped again. So last year, number 3 was finance.
Oh, okay. So I guess finance 3, and it was flip-flopped. Okay.
But it's
number
not.
4
All
this
right.
year. Number 3 this year is actually manufacturing and distribution.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe that, but that's
Okay.
fine. Whatever your research
But
tells.
it was number 4
Well,
last year.
manufacturing.
Anecdotally.
We have
yes.
seen manufacturing have a sort of reconnaissance, I would say.
And number 5, and this is the one that Melinda actually mentioned.
Nonprofits.
Was nonprofit.
Okay, I can believe
Woo! Can I get a ding, ding, ding?
that. I could see nonprofits
So really,
being in the
I
top
only had
5.
one guess, and I did better than Dave, I would say.
Indeed.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have questions for you later, Melinda.
All right, so those are the big markets. So a lot, the markets are pretty much the same top 5 then as last year, just shuffled a bit. Is that right?
Not necessarily. The ones where we did actually see growth in 2014 versus previous years is actually in that nonprofit sector. We actually have two individual groups that have moved up this year from prior years.
Oh, okay.
And that was the nonprofit sector and also the associations, clubs, civics groups. That's another sector. So both of those really, we saw pretty strong improvements in the total market share that they have over prior years.
That's great.
And I think in many ways that was actually might have been reflected in what we saw in the top product categories as well. Because the categories that they might be most interested in also showed growth this year in 2014 versus 2013.
Great.
Would you like to know what those are?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, the top category has always been, for the history of this study, has always been T-shirts.
Yeah, apparel T-shirts. Yeah.
Right. That's always been. But what we saw in some years is we've actually seen a decline in the percentage of overall sales where that category was accounting for.
Yeah.
This year, with the growth of the nonprofits and the associations, and obviously there's a lot of events, a lot of runs, things like that play into that market. We saw T-shirts and the percentage of business made up by that type of apparel actually increasing from previous years.
Yeah, I think it's a real positive sign, actually, because I could see that part of the market being encroached upon by the custom inks of the world where the margins are shrinking. So if you're seeing those numbers up, I think that's a positive sign for the industry.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw this year. And it actually reversed somewhat of a trend that we had seen in the last couple of years. Right. So yeah, and that actually makes complete sense if you think about the top leading industries that are growing, also the leading products that are growing too within them.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about industry optimism and health. How are distributors feeling about their businesses right now? Good, bad, indifferent?
No, they're feeling extremely well. Actually, matter of fact, for 2000, we've actually seen the counselor industry health measure. We've seen that grow.
The counselor, the confidence.
The confidence. We've seen that grow for countless quarters now, and we're going back several years now. Ever since the Great Recession started to wean its way out. So right now, the industry health is at the highest level it's ever been.
Ever. So a new record for industry health.
A new record for the end of the year. And looking forward to 2015, distributors are significantly more optimistic about the industry health than we have seen in previous years.
Wow, that's great. To what do we attribute that, guys?
Well, I mean, I would attribute it primarily to the fact that the now we've actually seen the relative economy of the U.S. While not growing by leaps and bounds, certainly being more consistent in its growth, and we're starting to see a little bit of a pickup in business. Now, Q1, as I understand, was reasonably tough. It could have been tough for many reasons. Particularly, I can speak to the incredibly bad weather up here in the Northeast. But even
tough, but still up.
But
right?
still slightly up.
Yeah.
So we've actually it's just continued steady growth, I guess you could say.
It's stability in the U.S.
Yeah.
economy. I mean, even though you look at GDP in Q1 was down, I think if you look at the trend over the past couple of years, there's a stability in the U.S. economy where companies are more apt to spend a little bit more on marketing. I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and I think that's what. It's not necessarily explosive growth like you might have seen during the .com era, but it's steady, and that was something that was sorely lacking for years.
Okay.
So industry confidence is up. Does that translate to a higher projection in terms of what they think they're going to do this year in sales?
It does. Again, what we now here's where it gets kind of a little bit catchy here, because what we've seen is even though it's not declining greatly, there have been continued pressures on profits. So profit margins, which used to be in the 33, 34, even 35%, have been inching down over the course of the years, and now you're at about 31, 32%. So while sales are overall increasing, and they have been at an average annual rate of about 5% in 2014 over 2013, there are continued profit pressures that have been coming up. So it's not that it's not rosy. It is absolutely, but distributors have to continually be aware of this.
31% is not too bad, though. I would take 31%
if I were a business owner. It's a whole lot better than most other businesses out there.
I agree. All right, so you mentioned profit margins being a challenge. What else? Websites we read about every year as being a major challenge. Is that the case? Was that the case last year?
It's interesting where you come into this. So, back in 2014, you had the big IPO of Alibaba come out.
Sure.
And and that was actually added into this study where we're at, talking about perceived competitor threats, and we talked about that, and we also have the supplier state of the industry as well, where we talk to suppliers about that. That's, I think, much more of a perceived threat than it is an actual threat right now. Years down the line, who knows? Years down the line, the Chinese companies that sell direct or the Alibabas of the world might become a bigger threat. But right now, they're not necessarily. The biggest leading competitor for most distributors are other distributors.
The guy down the street.
Yeah,
but that doesn't rank high, does it?
No, but when you look at it, those are always what they and it varies, because when you talk about the larger distributors, the ones with millions of dollars in sales, they're not concerned with the little guys. They're concerned with the other big guys or the other big guys reps that are in their same area, and that is actually where you see a big difference. The little guys, they're just concerned with their business and holding on to it. And they're not really concerned with the internet all that much either, relatively speaking. The big guys are the ones who really are concerned with that, who have the big orders, who have the more sophisticated businesses that they're selling into.
Yeah, I've said on this radio show, I don't think that Alibaba is the big threat that other people think that they are. I don't see Jack Ma and his crew coming in and trying to steal away market share as much as being partners for the industry, at least right now. When Alibaba comes in and starts purchasing distributors, then you could raise the red flag and say they're really going to make a push B2B. But right now, I think that Amazon is more Alibaba's target than this industry.
And I think what your question about earlier was about websites.
Yeah.
What websites are often listed as the number one threat to this industry, and that's not surprising. And that's where when we talk to the smaller distributors, or when I do focus groups with smaller distributors, a lot of them, believe it or not, they have websites, but they don't do anything with them.
Right.
So even though they're citing that as a threat, and they recognize the growing presence of e-commerce sites, they're not taking the active steps very often to actually counterbalance that within their own business.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally right, and I tell people all the time at shows when I get to speak that mobile is where they should be putting their resources, and too few companies in the industry are actually taking advantage of that. So I think that speaks to what you're saying.
That's true. Back to Alibaba for a second. Distributors and suppliers have a chance to put them on the hot seat, so to speak. We've got Michael Lee, he's the head of marketing for Alibaba, correct?
That's right.
He's going to be speaking at both our Canadian and U.S. Power Summits over the next few months. The U.S. Power Summit's November 1st through 3rd. And he's going to give a presentation on where he sees the company and how it fits into, e-commerce. And, he's going to field questions from the audience about, what the company's plans are for the U.S. marketplace.
And he knows the audience. He knows he's not stepping into a room of people that are going to be, showering him with roses. He knows there's going to be tough questions. But, he's coming to talk about partnerships. And he's told me that when I've spoken to him. Alibaba wants to position themselves as we're going to be a partner for industry firms and help with your warehousing, help with your sourcing, cut out some of that stress. We're not coming in to steal away your business. That's what they're saying today.
Right. But I think there are a lot of skeptics who are going to want to come and see and ask their own questions, and we'll see what they have to say.
You could tell a lot by the answers and a lot by the non-answers. So
Absolutely.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll check that out. All right. So we talked about challenges for distributors. What's the number one way distributors are finding new business these days?
Yeah, and this is not going to come as a surprise, because I would imagine if we look back to the beginning of the study, this was number one, and if you look forward up to 15 years from now, it's still going to be number one, and that's referrals.
Yep, that's been.
And it's a delicate balance of dealing with your current customers and making them happy, but also being comfortable enough to going out to them and saying, hey, listen, is there anybody that you can recommend to me, based on our relationship, based on our experience, that I can do for them what I've done for you? And that is by far number one. After that, you can get into the secondary areas such as cold calls, or depending on the size of the business, email marketing or catalogs or things like that. But everything just pales in comparison to the size of the referrals.
It's interesting. I was talking to someone from AIA yesterday, and obviously he knew that referrals is the number one source of new business for folks. And he said, he's astounded of the number of salespeople that just don't ask for referrals. They just don't feel comfortable, or they don't think about it. And he said every good customer you have, you should constantly, especially when you've just made them happy and placed an order for them that they've been really happy with, say, hey, who else at your company can I help out? Who else do you know that I can help out? Do you have any LinkedIn contacts? And he said, if you have a good relationship, people are always happy to give info, but enough distributors just don't ask. And
what's amazing to me is when you're a distributor or any independent business person, you want to have as many relevant contacts with your customers as possible. You don't want to just call them up on a Friday without anything to talk about. But if a business went well, then you have an opportunity to reach out to them again, double check on that business, double check how everything went, and then give them a chance to give you feedback about, who do they think that you can actually help out. It's a great extra point of contact, and you never know. While you're getting that refill, there might be another opportunity that comes around as well.
I've long said, especially during slow periods, it's smart for a distributor to call up a client and just say thank you. Just thanks for your business. And the person on the other end of the line is sort of taken aback sometimes and wants to help them out or wants to place an order. And that's an opportunity to ask for a referral. When you get someone sort of caught off guard, but you're reaching out to them saying thank you, I think that strikes as a good strategy.
Thank you, and saying thank you and writing a handwritten note, not an email, not a paper. It's funny. Every once in a while, when I have the opportunity, when I give as part of doing all my market research, I give away
money,
gifts, give away cash. I give away iPads. But one thing I always do is I always include a handwritten note in there, and I can sincerely thanking everybody for participating in the research. And it's amazing the feedback. I get phone calls back. I get handwritten notes back to me, thanking me for my thank you note.
Sure.
Not for the iPad, for the thank you note. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, and speaking of incentives, a lot of distributors have little incentive programs for their friends and contacts to give them referrals. They'll give gift cards to someone if they give them a referral that results in business. And what do you guys think about that?
Smart.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's an opportunity. It's very often not even the amount of the gift card. It's very often just the thought that goes into it. And it's a show of appreciation.
Yeah.
People are so bombarded with emails and stuff online that anything that's away from that, anything tangible, they appreciate. I think that's a good strategy for companies.
I agree completely.
Okay, Nate, let's talk about new trends for 2015. Anything you saw in 2014 that leads you to believe things will be different this year? Anything surprising in the research?
It's not so. This is where it gets to a certain point where we're not necessarily looking backwards, but more looking forwards. One of the questions that we asked to something, and this actually relates to something you mentioned earlier about, is your website mobile friendly?
Yeah.
And the reality is most distributors and their websites are not mobile friendly.
No.
And I think that especially for the bigger distributors, this is where it's going to be. This is where you're probably going to have a lag effect. The smaller distributors have always been more reluctant, I guess you could say, they've been slower adopters of the newer technology. But moving forward, you're going to see a greater growth of mobile-enabled websites, especially as it relates to the bigger distributors. When we actually bring this topic up very often when we do focus groups, very often it's just like a nice bridge into another topic. But when we ask how important is it for your website to be mobile-friendly, for the most part, for the smaller distributors, not only do they not have a mobile-friendly website, but they're not making any plans to do so.
Why? Do you ask them, well, what are you thinking? Because I would ask them that.
One of the great things about focus groups is, yes, I do ask them that. And the responses that come in, generally speaking, are, I do not do business on my website.
Huh.
And they
missed opportunity.
And whether or not that's true or not, that's their perception. They do not perceive that their customers or their clients are looking for anything on their website.
Right.
They're picking up the phone. They're calling them. That's how they perceive it. So yes, it is a missed opportunity because then theoretically they could send out an email or they could let their client know, hey, if you're having an event and you see something that's great, look on my website. It's mobile friendly. You can just look on your iPad, look on your iPhone. There's certainly an opportunity, but it's one of these trends where it is not perceived as an immediate threat.
Sure.
Among the smaller
Meanwhile, majority of people who look for a company on their mobile phone, if the website's not optimized for mobile, they just move on and find another person.
Sure.
It might not even come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people won't buy on the spot, right? But they're going to go back to their office and they're going to go to a website that they found on their mobile phone.
But if you don't find
if you don't find it to begin with, you're not going to go to that site. It's just such a common sense thing that it baffles my mind, Nate, that companies aren't more willing to put resources into that and look ahead 5 years.
There's a lot. This is still depending on how long this is where you're going to see a difference based on how long somebody's actually been in this business.
Yeah.
If you have somebody who's been in this business for 20, 25 years, or even 15 years for that matter, they're going to be more reticent to do something like this and to put any type of resources behind it. The newer guys, the guys who are just entering into this business, who have been here for 1, 2, or 3 years, also are probably somewhat younger and are used to doing this. And I can see the benefits of this, and they're the ones who might reap the benefits of this moving forward.
Yeah.
Did you get any stats on social media and how people are using that in their businesses?
You know what? Not from this study, but from all of the other research we did, we actually have had research. And when you look at distributors, and we asked a very pointed question. We said, of all of the social media websites, which ones do you use most often for business? Which one's number one?
Facebook.
That's actually right. Facebook's number one, followed by LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I see that. I see Facebook for older folks, honestly. The baby boomer generation is into Facebook. What I worry about is that baby boomers are not going to be the buyers soon.
Okay.
And I think there needs to be a shift away from. I mean, Facebook is great, and I'm a proponent of using Facebook for business. But I think there are other sites that offer more opportunities 5 years down the line.
Instagram.
Instagram is there. Pinterest is there. And these are not overnight sensations. These are powerful sites that are being used and optimized now for business. And so Facebook today, but I wouldn't say put all your resources into that.
And right now, we actually one of the when we were doing the study looking at social media websites, we looked at the Facebooks, we looked at the LinkedIn, we looked at the Twitters. We also we also queried people about Pinterest and about Instagram.
Yeah.
But these are our distributors. They're not the buying public.
Right, but they're not using them. Yeah. They're just generally not. They're relying on
Pinterest is perfect for pictures of products. I don't see why there's.
And it's not too difficult to just occasionally put up boards. It's really not.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I was talking to someone again that I contacted AIA yesterday, and he was saying, especially a millennial, a younger buyer, if you call them and approach them about doing business with them, the first thing they're likely to do is to go on social media and check you out. Yeah. And if you have zero presence, then
they don't think you're powerful.
Then you're not legit.
Right, that's what it is.
So it doesn't mean that you have to spend 5 hours a day updating these things, but to have a presence that's reasonable and do occasional updates and things just for that reason alone, just so people can people who are checking you out are like, okay, well this person's a legitimate player in the space.
Yeah, I mean somebody could actually just spend an hour a week and actually map out everything that they want to post on Facebook or Pinterest or Instagram for 2 weeks out and say, on this day I'm going to post this, on this day I'm going to post this, on this day I'm going to post this. So that removes that day-to-day aspect of having to sit down and plan and think about what you're going to do.
If you don't know how to do it, Google it. Google tells you how to do these things.
Yeah.
It really just takes half an hour sitting down to set it up.
Trust me, if my mom can do it with minimal help from me or my daughters, then anybody can do it. Anyway, well, those are some great insights, Nate. Thank you. We're going to read lots more about this.
Absolutely.
In the July State of the Industry issue, so everybody be on the lookout for that. A couple other things we want to cover today. Dave.
Yes.
You have a list of toxic employees that can ruin a company. So I
I have the names of 8 toxic employees.
I hope none of these people work with us, or we could be in trouble.
Yeah, this is from Inc. magazine. Jeff Hayden put this together. These are 8 types of toxic employees that ruin great companies, and it's an interesting list. Some of these I disagree with, and we'll go through it. And you guys, of course, can give me feedback. They lead the meeting after the meeting, so they keep talking about stuff after the meeting is over, and I guess that leads to some gossip. What do we think about that?
Well, you know what I don't like? To talk about the meeting after is fine, right? But if someone, here's my pet peeve. Someone goes to the meeting, they don't say anything, or they just say, yes, it's all great.
And they blabber after.
And then afterwards, they're like, that sucks, I'm not buying into that. Like, make your feelings known at the meeting. That's not helpful at all.
Sure.
Counterproductive.
And good culture companies will say, all right, let your feelings be known.
Right.
Now, let's talk about it in a meeting.
Yeah.
Instead of after at the water cooler.
Right.
Or,
so
wherever.
I would agree with that aspect of it.
These toxic employees also say that's not my job.
Nate? 100% agree. Every once in a while, you hear
Why
that.
can't I say that's not my job?
Well,
why can't I? It's not my job.
Well,
hey,
you know what I've always determined my job was?
What's that?
My job is whatever my boss tells me it is.
Aren't you just the
you know what, the
top employee?
Dave, a lot of people in the industry work for small companies.
Yeah.
So as you know, and here at ASI, we're small to mid-size. You have to wear many hats, right?
Sure.
So if everyone says their job is only the narrow job description that they have, then no other work would get done. So where's you disagree, obviously.
What's in it for me, baby?
Is that the next one?
No, no, it very well should be. But,
in it for you is.
But I'm saying, let's be real about employees, though. Let's be real about how they approach their jobs. If they're not coming to work thinking 100%. Let's let's go get it today, and the company's going to be great. They're thinking, what's my path? What's in it for me? I think that's just a realistic
and if you
thought.
do things above and beyond your job and really are the star, then you're going to be the one who's going to get promoted and get new opportunities, rather than the guy who's hunkered down saying, that's not my job. And be honest, Dave.
Yeah.
If you asked a writer here, who was to write something for you, to do something
of
a
course
little
they
extra,
would. Of
and
course they would do it. If you asked me to do something, of course I would do it.
And they said, that's not my job. How would you feel about that person?
I would
I
would be down on them.
Okay.
I would think that they're not a great employee.
Okay.
I think when they get
So
piled,
then why are you arguing against
when they get piled on, though.
Of course.
Maybe it's not okay. Maybe my point's not
different.
one or two.
That
maybe it's not the
different.
first or the second or the third thing. But when you're at fifth or sixth.
Critical mass.
Yeah, when you're a critical mass, or one of my favorite terms in business is over-delegation. When you're at the point of over-delegation, then I think an employee has the right to say, all right, let's talk about this. That's all.
Sure, but instead of saying it's not my job, then you say, okay, well, I've got this list of 10 things you asked me to do. Can you help me prioritize? Wouldn't that be a nicer way to say it?
Yeah, see. That's
all right. I think I won that argument. Let's move on.
I wouldn't say that, but there's always social media. We can have the conversation continue. All right, there's a few more.
Dave and I will talk about this afterwards.
Yeah, we're going to have a meeting after the meeting. They act as if they've already paid their dues, which is just, I agree with that, and that's
I think
stupid.
we all agree.
They think experience is a tangible commodity. They love gossip, which everybody, loves gossip, but I think
I don't think you're going to stop
limits.
gossip in the workforce.
Yeah, there's limits. They use peer pressure to hold others back, which is something like, this person is doing a great job, working long hours. You're making me look bad. You say that to the person. How could you think about being here at 6:30? You're making me look bad because I'm only staying until 5:15.
Yeah, that's possibly one of the more ridiculous ones I've ever heard.
That's stupid.
Agreed. They rush to grab the glory.
Yeah. No
and they rush to throw others under the bus.
Oh.
So 7 of these I totally agree with and and I think make sense. The one I'll stand my ground and say, there's up for debate. There's up for debate.
All right. Nate has kind of a fun list here. These are things that you should never say at work. So let's agree. If we think he's right.
Let's not.
Or disagree.
Oh, well, I'm going to start off with the easy ones, and this one's great. This is from entrepreneur.com, and this is great. Number 1 and number 12 are both the same.
Right.
One, that you hate your job, and that you're looking for a new job.
Right.
These are things never to say at work. I really don't think there's going to be too much of a disagreement with that.
No. I love when people post on social media. Like they go on Facebook at night. I had a crappy day at work. I'm looking for a new. That's my favorite thing.
It's amazing.
What's wrong with you?
Because we have people here at our company that will put negative things up. And I'll be like, okay, so they have 175 Facebook friends here at work. Like, what is,
You're posting that
Keep
for
it
everyone
to
see
yourself.
forever.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We agree with that.
Find something I could disagree with. Come on.
I don't know. You might disagree with. Maybe you should never speak about what you do in the bedroom or what you think someone else does in the bedroom.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
No?
None of us want to know.
Inappropriate?
No.
Yeah.
Appropriate or not, I don't want to know what's going on in other people's bedrooms.
No. And often, do you really want to picture your coworkers in certain situations? I'm going to say no, unequivocally.
No. Totally unequivocally. So here's one.
Okay.
And this is one I don't necessarily agree with.
All right.
Their political and religious beliefs. I don't. And let me explain why I don't agree with that.
Right.
Because I think as you.
Oh, I totally agree.
I don't. I think that there's room. I think it's with some people that's true, but with other people, especially people who you have a good working relationship with, when you spend a lot of time with them, especially when you're traveling and you're getting together, I think that can lead to if you both are mature and able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Some good
conversation.
Debate.
Right. Yeah, I think gone are the days when we have to be so careful and walk on eggshells in the office that we can't talk about certain things like that. If you ask me, what did you do this weekend? And I say, I went to church on Sunday. Is that a bad thing?
No.
No.
But what if you told Nate he was going to hell because he's not your religion?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Is that a bad thing?
That's not just a belief. That's I'm damning Nate.
I consider it to be more of a hot topic when I bring up the fact that the Eagles haven't won a Super Bowl ever. I consider that.
Well, that's almost
and again,
religious
as
and political.
Right.
No, but
New York loser. How you like?
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out.
The political thing is interesting because we're going to have the presidential campaign heat up, and every 4 years here at ASI, there are some hot debates, and some people actually
some people take it really far and do get upset.
I think the issue of me is the extremism. If you have extreme religious or political views, honestly, I don't want to hear them, even if they're toward my views. I just think there's no place for it. I think to have a friendly debate, who do you think is going to win the election or something is fine.
Well, we poll on that stuff.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So,
but
why
then
can't we talk about it in the office?
start, criticizing other views
Sure.
or things.
I agree with. I think it's the extremism that we.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily
with.
even the topics here. I think it's much more often whether or not two people can actually have an intelligent debate or conversation about it. And if they can keep their emotions sort of in check and actually listen, then then I think it's fine.
Sure. 6-10 Giants this year. Okay, continue on.
Anyway,
All right, last one.
We got one more.
last one, and this is great. How wild they used to be in college.
Oh, and the number one after that is what? The one after that.
How wild used to be in high school.
How intoxicated they like to get, which obviously those two run very close in concert to each other.
Yeah, I don't remember college.
Oh.
And I didn't drink in college.
Oh.
I don't remember. Why do I want to hear about what someone else
did? You went to Syracuse. I thought that was a big party school when you were there.
It was, and I didn't know, so I wasn't.
You didn't know until after you weren't invited to the party.
I wasn't part of the cool groups, but why? How would that come up in conversation?
I don't know.
And why would I want to know what happened to you or Melinda in
similarly,
college?
yeah, how wild they used to be in college and how they are in the bedroom were two topics that I have very little interest in ever knowing.
Yes,
I don't know. Also, the wild in college tries to makes me think someone's trying too hard. Like, hey, I used to be really cool and I partied and I played football and this and that. It's like,
it's great.
Why are you telling me
You're trying
this?
to create this persona about yourself to make you to inflate your own sense of importance.
It's
no
like
thanks.
You want to look at them and say, I'm really happy for you.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about religious beliefs. There we are.
Right.
All right.
It's something we can actually talk about.
That's right.
And the intoxicated thing, I mean, I think probably we wouldn't think highly of people who
Shouldn't there be a sense of professional maturity? I mean, really?
There should be.
Are we all like in 8th grade where we have to talk about who's dating who and who's kissing each other behind the
behind the what?
The playground.
I have
the playgrounds. I don't know.
I have a daughter in 8th grade, and I don't want to hear about that
right.
period right
so
now.
You want to hear about this stuff at work? Of course not.
There we are.
There we go. End
All
of
right.
conversation.
Well, you have a bunch more of these. You're going to put online at asicentral.com/radio, so you will know what not to say at work.
Absolutely.
What can you say at work, Dave? Hello?
Hello. How was your weekend? Where were we going for lunch?
Those are all good
Those
things,
are all
safe
good
things
topics.
to say.
Safe things to say.
How
are your kids?
As long as
how are your talk about family?
As long as how is your weekend isn't followed up with I got so trashed.
Right, that.
All right, well we are out of time. Thanks today for listening. Thanks to our special guests, Dave Agnoni and Nate Kusma. Have a great week, everyone. We'll check in with you next week.